Hello, and welcome to the Investor Guys Podcast, the ultimate podcast for serious real estate investors in the know. Join your host, Bill Barnett and Kevin Mills, as they share their expert insights, strategies, and tips to help you succeed in the world of real estate investing. Get ready to level up your investment game with the Investor Guys Podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Bill Barnett and Kevin Mills.
Hello and welcome to the Investor Guys Podcast. How you doing, Bill?
I am doing great, my brother. Welcome in everybody to Investor Guys Podcast. Thanks for being with us today. You got the maestro, Mr. Kevin Mills, and myself, Bill Barnett. Thanks for being here. So, maestro, what is on the agenda for today?
You know, we've got literally less than 60 days from now. We have a real estate buyers event coming up in Cleveland. And I want to talk about what investors need to have in place in order to be able to invest in markets outside where they live. Now, the reason I started doing real estate investors events was because living in Southern California, I had so many people who I would talk to who were just frustrated because the types of returns just were not there. And the amount of money that they needed to actually do anything was phenomenal. So I said, you know what, why are you investing here? Why don't you invest someplace else? And the obvious reply is, you know, I'm not familiar with anywhere else. This is where I live. This is what I know. So there are definitely things you need to have in place in order to be able to successfully invest in another market, but also to feel comfortable investing in another market. And that's what I want to talk about today. And really, maybe part of what this discussion should be is how to select another market to invest in. Why would we want to invest in another market? What is going to be one of those key factors for us? And I think that we can start with that. Basically, the reason you'd want to invest in another market is it has a better return. If you're in a market where you're getting great returns and you're seeing good returns on your money and it's easy to invest, stick with it. Stick with it, stay with it. If you're in a market like New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, hundreds of other cities across America, you're talking about low returns and you're talking about a huge investment. Those are markets, if you're in those markets, those are where you want to start looking into a different market to invest. Now, what would be the first thing that you look for, Bill, when you're looking to invest in another market, apart from the returns? So apart from the returns, what makes you comfortable, or what would make you comfortable going into another market?
And as I answer that, let me start with this. Everything that we're going to tell you about investing in another market, you need to have for your own market as well. So this is great information. It's not exclusive to investing outside of your home market. Absolutely. But when you're looking at these other markets, these are crucial things that you've got to have. Now, when you're not, so Kevin made a caveat there. We're not going to talk about return just yet. If I'm not looking at return, then the first thing I want to look at is what's the job market like in that community? So I can go on to census.gov and look up, you can also look in the Labor Department and find all kind of information about individual markets and what the job market is like in that market, because you can mark this down and chisel it in stone. If the job market is good in a city, the real estate market is going to be good in that city. So that's the first thing that I like to look for.
And what makes you comfortable though? What tools do you have to have in place? What factors do you have to have in place that would make you comfortable to start investing in a market where you don't live in? Let's say it's a market where you can't get in your car and drive 20 minutes to a half an hour to get to, because there's a lot of markets where that's the situation. It may not be a good market where you are, but you can drive an hour and you're in a good market. So let's say you have to get on an airplane and fly a few hours and spend some money to get to that market. What is it that, like, for you and I'm in Florida, you're in Texas, okay? And we're investing in Cleveland, okay? For both of us, that means getting on an airplane and going to Cleveland if we're gonna do this hands-on, which is not practical at all. So what makes us comfortable, what makes you comfortable investing in, say, Cleveland, for example?
And I was gonna use Vegas, which I love.
Okay.
But so I wanna look at, I already mentioned I wanna look at the job market first. then it's going to start to boil down. Because I know if I got good jobs, I'm going to have a good housing activity. If I've got good jobs, I'm going to have a lot of people moving in and out. Okay, then that goes hand in hand with what kind of return and what's the pricing. So when I'm looking at a market, one of the places that I love to go is to realtor.org, not .com, .org. And in realtor.org, you can get, which is the National Association of Realtors site, but .org is where really is designed for people in the industry, for real estate agents, brokers. And so I like to go there because they have some research available, and you got to find it. There's a research tab, and then they do they call it the quarterly report, but it comes out every month on pricing for the top 260 markets in the country. And what they will do is they will tell you, based on everything that's gone through the MLS in each of those markets, okay, so in Cleveland, here's where pricing was, median price was last year. Here's where it is right now. Here's where it was last month. Here's where it was last quarter. And you can see what a trend is going on in a particular market. Is it an up market? Is it a down market? Is it a flat market? A lot of markets that are excellent to invest in, if you're looking at cash flow, are flat markets. They don't have to be going up. You don't want them going down necessarily, but a flat market can be a very attractive market when you're looking at cash flow. So that's a tool that I love to use, is realtor.org. And I want to just look at what's the trend for that market. And again, I love markets that are going up, but I'm not afraid of a flat market. And I'm going to pay attention to a market that is trending down, because I may want to go into that market as we get toward the end of a cycle. And look, you're going to know, if you understand the things to look for in deciphering the market, you're going to know when the end of a cycle is coming up. So when we come back from the break here, I'm going to go into a couple of things that I use on a regular basis, and Kevin's got some that he wants to add that's going to tell us how we can identify when a cycle is ending, whether it be an up cycle or a down cycle. So hang with us for more Investor Guys podcast. We'll be right back.
See you in a minute. And we are back from our break, and Bill's going to talk about a couple more things that he's looking for in a market. And so far, Bill's been talking about reasons why we're picking markets, the reasons why we're selecting markets. I want to get into, once we've selected a market, what we need in that market in order to make sure that we are going to be successful, and that we're not on the phone all the time. We're feeling like we need to get on an airplane and go there and deal with something ourselves. So go ahead and finish up with
so much of what we need in what I would refer to as a foreign market, a market that's not our home market. It's still in the U.S., but it's a foreign market. It's not what we're used to. Now, one of the things that we're going to need is we're going to need funding for that market. What you'll find a lot of times is hard money lenders and private money lenders want to stay close to home. They don't want to, if they're in Dallas, they don't necessarily want to invest in Cleveland because they don't understand that market. So you want to make sure that you're heading into a market that you've got funds in place. If it's money that you've already dealt with in your local market, that's terrific. Make sure those people know that the next round is likely to be in X city, like for us with Cleveland, or then you want to start establishing relationships in that other market, like for us, again, the Cleveland market, where you know lenders there that are used to working in that market. They're used to everything that happens there. Now they just got to get to know you a little bit, and you're off and running. So money is always a big, big key to have when you're looking at going into another market. And then you got to have some relationships. You got to have some realtor relationships. And if you don't have those people in place already, or know somebody that you can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, who do you think is a great investor realtor for that market? Then one of the things that I would suggest is you look at the investment clubs for a particular market. So it might cost you $100 to join the club for a year in a particular market. But as a club member, then you can call the president. You can say, hey, look, I'm coming in from Dallas and I need to pick up a great real estate agent, because most of the clubs are going to have multiple agents in there, and they understand us as investors. So I've got money in place, I've got an agent in place. I also want to have an inspector. Yeah, if I'm now typically I'm going to get that information more than likely from the real estate agent that I'm using, but I want a referral on it because my eyes aren't on the ground. My boots aren't on the ground. I don't want to have to hop on a plane and fly 2.5 hours to Cleveland from Dallas Fort Worth just to go look at this one property, even though it may be a great deal. I want to have somebody there that I have faith and confidence in to be able to move forward and take their word for, hey, this is a good inspector, went out and looked at the property. And they can give you some quick rundowns, but you want to make sure that what you think you're buying is what you're buying. And so as long as you understand the condition of the property, then you're in good shape and can move forward. But those are three great components that you need. You need to have some money in place, you need to have a real estate agent relationship in place, and you need to have an inspector.
And absolutely, I agree. Money is important, whether it's money out of your own pocket, your retirement fund, or a lender. The thing to remember with lenders is there are licenses for every state. So the lender you are using in your home state for your projects may not be licensed in another state. So check with them first and see if they are. If they are, then
Now
they
that's
should
hard
be having.
money.
What's that?
Private money different. Private can go anywhere.
Yeah, private money can go anywhere. But if you have a commercial lender that you're working with, even hard money lenders have to have a license, a lending license for each different state that they work in. And then what makes me feel comfortable is having a real estate agent, a real estate professional who I am comfortable with, who I trust, who when they call me and they say, yeah, Kevin, I went and looked at that property and it's a great deal, it's in a good area, it's going to do this, it's going to do that. I also have property managers that I send out to look at a property as soon as I have made an offer on it and I get an accepted offer back. I send my property manager out there. They take a look at it. They're going to give me their opinion from a different standpoint. So my agent is telling me, yeah, it's in a good area, it's a solid house, it's going to be worth X amount of dollars, it's a good investment. My property manager is going to say, Kevin, you're going to be able to get X amount of dollars on rent for this property. The way it stands, you're going to be able to get X amount more if you do this, this, and this. The other thing that I like to have is a contractor that I trust, because the contractor is also my inspector. I send him out there and I ask him to give me a bid on everything that it's going to take that needs to be done. Now, when my contractor sends me that estimate, I already know when I look that it does need a new sink because my real estate agent told me you're probably going to have to redo the kitchen. My property managers already told me you're probably going to have to redo the kitchen. You know, if he's coming back with a bunch of crazy stuff, and if it's a contractor that you trust, it shouldn't be. But if he's coming back with things that no one else noticed, that might be a red flag for that property. If he's saying, you know what, you've got foundation damage on this property, and I didn't account for that when I made the offer because my real estate agent didn't notice it, my property manager didn't notice it, and he's sending me photos that say, yeah, there's definitely foundation damage, it may not be a good deal anymore for me to do that offer. So I've got a period of time where I can back out of that offer. I may lose my earnest money deposit, but at least I'm not at a negative on the property. So I always have my contractor go out there as soon as I have that accepted offer. As soon as they say yes, okay, I send them out the door, they go and take a look. There's also contingencies when you make an offer subject to inspection, subject to. So I've got those little windows to get somebody out there as quickly as possible. But that is what makes me comfortable. But most of all, what makes me comfortable with the market is understanding the strategies. The strategies that work in that market and the strategies that are going to put money in my pocket, because the strategies that work in different markets are different based upon the market that they're in. The strategy that might work best where I live may not work best in Cleveland, may not work best in Dallas, may not work best in Las Vegas. The types of properties that we purchase in individual markets for that strategy are going to be different market to market. The types of properties that I buy in Charlotte North Carolina are different than the types of properties that I buy in Vegas, are different than the types of properties that I buy in Cleveland, are different than the types of properties that I buy in Dallas. In Dallas, most of the properties that I get are single family, maybe a duplex. Okay. I don't want anything that's going to be bigger as far as a multifamily property in Dallas. I would rather have a big multifamily property in Cleveland because my returns per unit are going to be higher than they are going to be in Dallas. So understanding the strategy of the market is very, very important. That to me is what gives me my greatest relief, my greatest confidence. And I think we need to take
All
a
right.
break now, but let's go ahead and jump on that and then we'll go ahead and wrap this up. And we're back from our break and we're going to go wrap this up real quick. Essentially, what you need to remember is if you have the things that are important in place, if you understand the market that you're going to be investing in, you've got your team on the ground and you know what to expect, there should be nothing that keeps you afraid of investing in another market. In fact, the returns from another market can be very, very motivating. When you're talking about the difference between returns in Southern California, which I see people for 10 and 20%, 30% is bragging rights in Southern California versus say 50 to 80% or 100% or more in markets like Cleveland, it's a no-brainer. Bill, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And so what I want to look at is why am I going into the market? What's the best strategy for that market? And is it someplace that I want to be? Yeah, so there's an extra caveat there. Some of these markets I love going into that may be a clone of another market, but it may be a more desirable location for me personally. Vegas is one of those. There's a lot of markets that react like Vegas, but they're not Vegas. So I get an opportunity there to get a little extra bump in there. Kev moved down on the down into Miami and owns some beachfront property or very close to the beach in Daytona Beach, and then in Orlando as well, some vacation type properties. So that's another thing you want to look at. If I've got all of my components in place, it could be that, you know what, I'm going to buy in this particular market because I want to be able to go there and it be a business expense. Could you buy in Hawaii? Absolutely, you can. Do they have Section 8 in Hawaii? Just a thought. Oh, gosh, they do. Also, you might want to buy in, well, I started to say Seattle because I was thinking about the Vancouver market, which I love. But, yeah, I don't know that I'd want to be buying in Seattle right now. But, you may want to be buying in Phoenix, in the Scottsdale, Phoenix area, so that you've got a place to go to in the wintertime. So there's a lot of different things other than just solely being the return. But when I have all these other things in place, great return, all the other things we talked about, man, it's nice to be able to throw a property out there where you're in a place that you enjoy going and being in. And it allows you the ability to go more often because now it's a business expense.
Yeah. And another thing to remember too is regardless of what market you're doing it, if you saw our last show, we were actually talking about how quickly you can turn 50K into $1 million. So if you're making $1 million cash in your pocket every single day, I wouldn't worry about buying a property in San Lucia. I would just go to San Lucia. I would buy the properties where I'm still buying properties and I'm making those types of returns and be happy to be able to travel to wherever I want. One of the things that Bill's trying to point out, though, is by having properties in Las Vegas, he's able to use that as a business expense and still go and enjoy Las Vegas, the buffets and the shows and the casinos. By having a property in Honolulu, he's able to go to Hawaii and be able to make that a business expense versus just going there for vacation. At some point, though, you just do your vacation for your vacation and go where you want to go.
It's a personal thing. That's all
it's additional. Yeah, it's additional motivations. But I'd rather have that property in Honolulu rented every day of the month and me not be able to use it and go stay at a resort instead.
Oh, you don't have to use it.
Well,
just go check out it.
Yeah, and exactly. I can still fly out there and I can still drive by it and say I was checking on the property. And we do the same types of things for. I just opened up another corporation And I added my sons as officers because whenever we do an officers meeting, we can meet someplace and I can do a family reunion with my immediate family because they're the officers and they get to write it off. My son gets to talk about, being an officer on the corporation when he goes out to lunch with his girlfriend or when he goes out to lunch with somebody else. And it's a business expense for him. So there's all types of motivations that come into play for business, and real estate investing is a business. And we need to keep that in mind, and we need to make sure that we form our decisions around that. It's not just the income, it's the ancillary benefits that we can get from it as well.
And it's treating it as the profession that it is, because it is, for the vast majority of Americans, this is the ability to earn obscene amounts of money over time. But you have to treat it as a profession. You have to work at it. I remind investors all the time, especially new investors, because they'll get this concept. Maybe they bought a property in May and they sold it in October. They're like, well, I got 6 months into that property. You're like, no, you don't have 6 months worth of work into that property. You own that property for 6 months. That's a very different thing. When you look at the actual amount of time that you spend on a particular deal, to spend 20 or 30 hours on a deal is just really almost unheard of in our business. It's literally a few hours spread over days, weeks, or months, and your return is just insane when you look at what you've done. And we've all done stuff in our life that we worked hard. I had a time where Coach Bryant got me a job at a meat packing company that he was on the board of directors. Well, it wasn't the kind of job you hear about athletes getting nowadays where they don't show up or anything. I had to work from midnight to 8 a.m. and I drug a 55-gallon drum of acid around with a sprayer on it. And I was in a full space-looking suit. I looked like a hazmat guy, and I would clean out the killing and stripping areas at this meat packing plant. And it was gross, hot, hard work. But you know what? I took that, and later on in life, when I looked at doing real estate, I was like, wow, look what I raised my hand and said, please pick me to do that job, and what that job paid compared to being able to do this. And it's like, why in the world would we want to do anything else than this unless you can become a professional lottery winner?
That's my wife has her fingers crossed for. That just does it for our show today. We look forward to seeing you again on our next installment of the Investor Guys podcast. If you get a chance, go to investorguyspodcast.com. Check out our upcoming event in Cleveland. If you happen to watch this after November of 2020, check out our next coming real estate buyers events. We're going to do buyers events in Dallas. We're going to do buyers events in different cities across America that have good returns and have a good, solid market where you can buy and you can plan on holding these properties for 10 or more years based upon what Bill and I know and our own experiences in those markets. So no matter when you're watching this, go check out investorguyspodcast.com. Check on buyers events and see what we've got coming up and register so that you've got your spot reserved. Buyers events are unique in that we don't take a lot of people because we're putting you on a bus. We are literally putting you on a bus on the last day. And we are going to drive to properties that you pick to look at so that you guys can make offers, choose to make offers, and you'll have us and you'll have your fellow students there to hold your hand and talk you through it and say, yeah, you got the numbers right, or you're missing this number. So we don't have large groups that go on these events. So get your registration in as quickly as possible. This November event is our last buyers event of 2020. Last one of 2020, and it's going to be very limited, not only because we're putting you guys on buses, but because we got coronavirus to deal with as well. We will see you guys soon. Have a great day. Bill, I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.
You too, brother. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you for tuning in to the Investor Guys podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and stay updated on the latest trends and insights in the world of real estate investing. Also, Don't forget to check us out and see all of our episodes at theinvestorguyspodcast.com. Email us, contact@investorguyspodcast.com. Remember, the key to financial success lies in staying informed and taking action. Stay tuned for our next episode, and until then, happy investing.